Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another exciting installment of the GF webinar series. Today we're going to try to bring some clarity to the exciting world of window graphics. So, window graphics, this is great. These are everywhere. I'm fairly confident that you, whether you're a sign shop, commercial printer, designer, installer, whatever, you've gotten requests for and likely run plenty of window graphic jobs. It's one of the most common and really the most visible surfaces for any business, school, shop. And let's face it, everyone has windows, and that commonality brings comfort or confusion with the solutions that we choose and really how we approach different graphic challenges. In the category of window graphics, I break it down into these three main types that we see. This includes the decorative or architectural films like you see in this etched glass on a conference room. Maybe it's graphics that convey some sort of information or wayfinding to help, like simple cut lettering on a coffee shop door, or the promotional advertising decals that obviously grace so many surfaces and are constantly vying for our attention and our dollars. Our job today really is to try to demystify these applications, identify some basic guidelines when we're looking at window graphics, and to give some practical guidance on how to approach these opportunities. I always like to start with a scenario, and this concept is one that seems constantly to cause some head scratching. A customer says, they send in this request, they need a poster side print for their chain of coffee shops. And it's for their windows, but they want to highlight their monthly specials. No big deal, right? Until that one challenge. I want to show it, but I want it on the inside facing out. Can you do that? They ask. And let's add complexity. They want a different image on the inside facing their customers that are in the store than the ones that are on the outside that they're trying to draw in to their store. And I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a fantastic opportunity to outsource. But don't worry, we're going to walk through this together bit by bit. And I'm convinced, much like wall graphics, window graphics, this is again a profitable, high impact segment with real opportunity, and it pays to understand what we're working with and what we're trying to do. And again, don't worry, we're in this together. So let's get into it. First, I want to establish a few continuity points from the Surface Intelligence webinar. If you didn't check that one out last month, that is available on our website and on our YouTube channel under that training element. But this continuity, this thing, it ties in regardless of what we're doing. We have a job to do, a graphic to stick in this circumstance, and I only want to do it once. Our goal is to avoid reprints, to avoid rework, to avoid failures, and to choose the right solution intentionally rather than on autopilot. We also need to be thoughtful about the approach because every preventable failure starts with really one of these four things. It's understanding our surface, it's understanding our material, our application process, and the risk that's involved. So we take a beat and we ask, what am I sticking to? What am I sticking with? How am I applying it? And what could go wrong? And we do that by going back to our 7 core questions and thoughtfully considering the implications that help better refine and define our solution. So let's go to it. And for this particular scenario, what surface are we sticking to? Well, easy. We're sticking to glass. Scientifically speaking, glass has high surface energy. It's highly attractive in its surface, and adhesives really interact with it easily. So I don't have a big hurdle to get over in terms of getting my film to stick. In fact, I probably don't want anything too aggressive, or I make the material a little too difficult to handle during installation. How long does it need to last? The second question, well, it's short term, right? It's a monthly special. So I don't immediately exclude anything based on like it's a 5-year film or a 7-year film or a 3-year film. They're all fair play, but I might be a little more skeptical about those ultra long-term materials because, well, frankly, they're just not needed, right? The question doesn't exactly rule anything out, but it's a valuable filter. So then I look at what type of film do I need? If we're debating cast versus calendared, we look at 2-dimensional versus 3-dimensional. it's glass. This is clearly a two-dimensional application, so cast is way overkill. I can technically use anything, monomeric, polymeric, thin film, thick film for this application. Again, I'm not really limited here. The film type question will matter more a little bit when we get into the layers conversation and how we put this together. The next one, permanent or removable adhesive. Well, a removable adhesive just means it's been designed to cleanly release from the application surface at the end of, the period of time. So you could use any of the removable adhesives, and frankly, you could use a permanent adhesive if you want. But okay, what's the challenge? If I use a permanent adhesive on this, I run the risk of adhesive transfer, of difficulty when I'm repositioning it, or it's just cleanup challenge when it's time for that graphic to come down. Again, not necessarily a problem. It's just a variable to consider, because every decision we make is connected to this whole application ecosystem. It's not that it's wrong, it's just it steers the way we handle it. It's information to help evaluate and really to refine our approach, because we're not just thinking about the print or the install, we're thinking about removal, we're thinking about the situation it's going into. Next question, is a laminate needed? Well, for ink protection on a short-term install, no, it's really not. We'll talk about how a laminator could be helpful for this particular challenge, but a laminate per se isn't really needed. Is it interior or exterior, and are there any special features? Well, it's complicated on the interior and exterior, because it kind of, yes. I mean, it's an interior graphic that's facing outside, and that's really what we're going to dive into next. When we talk about window graphics, there are two main installation types, often referred to as first surface and second surface. First surface, the graphic is applied on the outward surface. All right, the simplest way I've come up with to think about is if you're standing and you're looking at a graphic on a window and you reach out and poke your finger at it. If you touch the graphic before your finger gets to the glass, it's first surface. If you touch the glass before the print, that's second surface. You're seeing the image that was applied to the other side of the window, but it's still facing you. And again, each of those is valid. Each has an impact on the aesthetic, on the install method, on the durability, on light control, and how you produce it depends on your capabilities, which we'll get into that a little later too. All right, let's lean into those layers though, because the breakdown here and the understanding the layers, this is where we really start to intentionally build out our system. For a first surface install, remember I can touch it before I touch the glass. The stack, it's straightforward. You've got the glass on the bottom, the adhesive, the film, and the ink. Any current wide format, narrow format, offset device can make this graphic as a standard feature. You're not doing anything special. You are thinking though about who's handling it, what are the environmental conditions. Maybe it's a wet versus dry installation thing, but from a material printing layering standpoint, first surface is pretty clean, right? This one's still pretty easy. Second surface, this is when we flip to literally and things get more complex. Now I need to get my adhesive between my image and the glass. Printing directly on opaque white film like we did for first surface, that's not really an option. That just gets me first surface facing the wrong way. So I need to shift my thinking into layers. And this is where, again, sometimes people are like, all right, I can't do the mental gymnastics to try and picture all of this. How do I do that? Where's the adhesive? I can't print on the glue, can I? What material do I use? And can my equipment even handle it? All right, again, let's try to simplify this. The basics of what I need. My glass is the application surface, and I need my connection to that surface first. So glass, I need an adhesive. And yes, there'll be the one person who says, well, what about static cling? That's not adhesive. I know, yes, this also works with clear static cling. But again, instead of glass adhesive film image, like opaque film and image, we're going glass adhesive clear film and image. So we're reverse printing that image on that clear film. And I've got there at the bottom that there's a white opaque layer. Here's the thing with most inks is they're generally translucent. without some opacity behind them, we end up with something that looks like stained glass. That's beautiful. I mean, don't get me wrong, Phil's Churches, it's great, but it's probably not what the coffee shop wants, and it's not going to give you a good, readable, legible graphic. And because this is an important element, I do want to take a quick side trip and get a little nerdy. When we talk about opacity, what we really have is a measurement of visual blocking, how well the film hides what's underneath. Blockout, on the other hand, is a function of what's called optical density, or it's how much light can travel. It's a measurement of how much light can travel through a material. Your film can be super opaque, 99% opacity or better, and still not be blackout. And if it's not blackout, light can get through the image. Like you see here, it kind of ghosts out or lightens up that image on the inside. And yep, okay, it's super confusing, or it can be. I have a pretty handy visual I'd like to walk you through. Okay, so what I have is I have 3 different materials here in my laboratory. GF203 gloss white, 203 OP, which has a gray adhesive or an opaque adhesive on it, and 218, which is our window mark blackout. Even on the back side of this, you can see the different adhesives. This was the 203 clear adhesive, and we've got 255 Optimark on that side, or on the reverse of that, just to show an image coming through. The gray adhesive of our opaque solution in the middle, and then 218 blackout on the side. When we look at these images, and this is something as simple as something you can do, even just checking this with your phone, with the flashlight that's on there, you see on that 203, that comes through and kind of burns out the image, but it also shows my color through from the other side, muddying things. I can do that with my gray adhesive as well, and really I just end up with splotchy gray versus my blackout material. And I promise it's actually showing there. My blackout material, you get none of that image through. So from the other side, again, seeing that difference that makes. Now, for a lot of graphics, that doesn't really matter, right? This, even with the opaque or even with the white, unless it's in that really strong backlit scenario like it is in that coffee shop image, you're not going to get a lot of that sunlight through. It'll be just fine. I mean, even here in my office, in the midst of all of this, it's fine. You got a little bit that's maybe coming through from the light, but in most scenarios, it's going to be okay, right? Okay. We go back to this. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So single-sided second surface graphic, it's again, it's not a huge issue, but it's not a non-issue. It's just something you need to be aware of. And again, easy test with this material with your phone flashlight to see how's that image going to look when sun is shining behind it. Okay, so now we know about the layers, but we need to look at how we actually produce these kinds of two-sided window graphics. And in order to figure out the best method for this, I think you really need to first take an inventory of what you have to work with. What is your equipment? What can your equipment do, right? So I put together this little decision tree to help us navigate the options based on your capabilities. And you'll see there are a lot of ways to get here. So let's dive into it. All right, so number one, do you have print capability? If you do, awesome, keep going, right? But if you don't, outsource. Outsource, but do so with a clear understanding of the materials, having asked the right questions of the customer, because that's what leads to a quality solution that actually meets those customers' needs. Your value to your customer, and I was in a shop not long ago where they had one print and they were trying to work this out, or it was a few posters for a local restaurant that they wanted to do on clear static cling. And they absolutely had the capability to manage this internally. But it was something that for the couple posters that they needed, for the new roll of material that they'd have to purchase to be able to bring in and run that, and the days that it would take to do that, or working with one of those trusted partners or valued outsourced partners, they were able to get the graphic in 2 days without having to buy the material. And yeah, they paid a few dollars a square foot to get that static cling image as the customer had requested. But I just think about that sometimes your value to your customer isn't always about the output from your printer. It's about the overall experience. It's working together and gaining that coveted, trusted advisor position for their organization. But that's maybe for another day. Anyway, so if you do have print capability, let's keep going. If you don't, outsource. But again, it's not like there's shame in that. It's not like that's a problem. You're still bringing that value to your customer and getting the job done. All right, do you have print capability? Yes. Do you have a laminator? Yes, keep going. But if you don't, that's not a problem. You can use a clear film, and like we talked about, clear film, but reverse print. So just mirror that print, and then print your other image on an opaque or a blackout white material and hand laminate them together. If you don't have a laminator, you're probably well skilled in the art of hand lamination. You can do this either in your shop, you can do this in the field on that window. And yeah, it's tricky and you've got to worry about alignment and all that stuff, but that's where the good hinge technique, good squeegee technique, that's where that matters. Maybe even considering wet versus dry application on that one. For this, the materials that you can use, you're going to see some consistency here that GF 206, our clear 3 mil low tack, or 219, that's the 6 mil low tack clear, or even 255, that's the optically clear for that reverse print clear image. And then switching to the white side, again, you can do something as simple as 201 for an opaque, though not blackout. 222 6 mil is a little more opaque, or 218 that gets you into a full blackout for that. But let's keep going. Okay. So do you have a printer and a laminator? Yes. Do you have flatbed printing equipment? Ooh, yeah. Okay, keep going. No, no problem. You're still going to print on the same film choices as before, but now you get the joy of equipment laminating, or machine laminating those layers rather than hand applying them in the field or trying to line things up in the shop. And I will say alignment on this is key. So make sure that you're accounting for that in your design with margin and bleed, trying to line up exactly on images or not cut off things on the edge. That can be really tricky. Again, same clear options of 206, 219, 255, or going to going to those white options of 201, 222, 218 on the opaque white side. Do you have print, laminate, and flatbed? Yes. Sweet. Oh yeah, yes, it already says. Okay, can I print white ink? If you can't, no problem. Your flatbed printer and laminator really give you better registration, and more options open up here. You can still print your clear, laminate with your opaque or blackout layer. What I like about this is even more precision than laminating layers and trying to get everything to line up just right. There are also things, if it's a UV flatbed printer, you can also use 207 static cling. And we have other materials that aren't necessarily in the digital wide format field, like a thin polypropylene, a metallized polypropylene that works as that blackout layer at 2 mil instead of going up to that 8 mil for the 218 blackout, right? It's just there are other options, and those are regularly used with offset and screen printing. There's also the rigid print option. A lot of times on a flatbed, UV flatbed press, you're able to print on styrene, you're able to print on our rigid vinyl or RV8 material. Do that two-side and then laminate it with a mounting film like 113, 114, 116, 118. All those numbers, I mean, that's just a lot of numbers. You can get all the data sheets and we'll share some information on those here as well. But basically being able to print your rigid substrate with that great alignment or registration for the two sides, and then just laminate on and turn that into an adhesive back material as well. And then trim to size. And you've got a little more precision on this one. And do you have a print capability, laminator, flatbed printing, and white ink. Ooh, aren't you so special? No, this is cool. Like, again, so with white ink, this is where your film selection gets simpler. Your options open up the most. You can create all the layers that you need. You don't have to worry about laminating different films together. Your image, opaque layer, blackout, opaque image, with a single film, you can do this in a single pass. Your ink really does the work. You can use GF 206, you can use the static cling 207, 255 with optical clarity, and that solvent adhesive hold up really well with this. And even 219, that 6 mil clear, that thickness handles the additional ink layers really well. But still, I mean, with this, we're never printing on the glue, right? Still the adhesive and liner, clear film, and then I'm hitting ink, opaque, ink, color, white or opaque layer, and color. And I put in there that the opaque layer could be either a solid white. I know some of the white inks that exist out there are able to hit a high enough coverage or level that they become that blockout layer, whereas others you may need to do white, black, white. So again, it depends on the ink manufacturer, all the settings and the equipment, but those will get it done. So with all that, we can see walking through these questions: can I print? Do I have a laminator? Do I have a flatbed? Do I have white ink? At every step along the way, we can still produce that two-sided inside mount or that push-pull inside mount second surface graphic for what they're looking for. And we didn't even touch on the toner and indigo path that use our NFD materials or UV offset for commercial printing. The materials, I mean, we make all of those same materials as well. And those materials and layers are really the same as well. The process shifts a little bit based on the equipment, but the framework, the questions, and the needs of the job are all the same. I do want to just touch back a word on risk before we lock in our good, better, best winners, because we can do all of our homework on the surface, the material, the application method, but this one, this risk ignored, this is where that thoughtful, curious approach pays off in awareness and prevention. So again, we're thinking through, keep these in the back of your mind, because it's the edge cases that always make or break an installation. So let's think about prep. Let's think about the ecosystem that graphic is going to live in. Is the glass clean? What kind of abuse or contact is this thing going to see? Are there existing graphics that I need to remove first? Is there window tint? Is there a protective film on the glass? All of those that I need to be aware of. What about the seals and the gaskets at the edges of the window, or just the condition of the window in general? I think about the environment and the climate, like, all right, what is the temperature? What's the direction the window is facing? What time of day will the install happen? All of those things are going to be critical for, again, not only material selection, but again, this is like, it's a whole ecosystem this thing lives in. And then the installer and the installation method. Is it going to be done by a trained professional, or is it a store employee? Are they doing wet install versus dry install? It's, again, a real variable, and it's worth understanding. And I will also add that diving into the application technique, that's a little bit more than the webinar can do justice. We do host around the country, we're working on hands-on workshops where we cover exactly this kind of thing. And if you're curious about that, just like where you registered for this webinar, you can get details about any upcoming workshops at generalformulations.com/training, or check our socials as well. All right. So let's bring this back to our coffee shop. The customer asked for a graphic that was inside mount, facing out, a different image on each side. They wanted it visible around the clock. So that's push-pull execution with a little bit of a visibility requirement. And here's how I'm going to approach it across these three tiers. For a good graphic, I cheated. This is two first surface prints using GF 223, so 6 mil semi-rigid, low tack removable, matte white, one on each side of the glass. And this is one anyone can do. You print two graphics on the same 6 mil semi-rigid removable, apply one to the exterior and one to the interior of the glass. No layering, no alignment, no special equipment. You're not messing with the clear in an opaque or blackout layer. And I like this. The reason I did this for good is because this is real world. The complexities of printing that push-pull, it comes with cost, comes with design time, it's equipment, and often that extra for a couple posters is unrealistic. This is one material on the printer and both sides printed and processed at the same time, right? You're loading that same roll of material, those same sheets of material, and it works. Ultimately, it gets the customer most of what they want, but it probably does it much quicker and a little bit less expensive than doing the complicated two-sided graphic. Now, the limitation on this is that it's not really what they ask for, right? Maybe that's not a major issue, but it's two separate installs, it's two separate removals. If there's misalignment on the two layers, like I exaggerated in the example here, it's easy to see from either direction, but that's a conversation you can have with that customer at the start as you're talking about the job and setting those expectations. I kind of like this for a reality filter. On the better options, so the better is a second surface push-pull. This is GF 206 clear, reverse printed, and 201 white, just that opaque layer, not a blackout layer. Now we're doing true second surface. The clear film's, again, printed in reverse. It's paired with that opaque. It works, right? The image quality is solid and it works in normal light. The trade-off is if it's super bright, maybe for a couple hours in the afternoon when the sun is shining on that window, you may get some image bleed through from one side to the other. If you know this going in and you communicate that expectation to the customer, it's a perfectly viable solution for many. And honestly, films like this, where it's your standard opaque and your standard clear, you likely already have it available on your floor. So you don't have to order a special roll. Again, you can still make it work. You can still give them what they want. And for the majority of the hours of the day, it's going to look just fine. Again, there are trade-offs with any of these that we're doing. And then we get into the best scenario. And this is the true blackout. Again, as we talked about, based on your equipment, this could be different methods to get the same thing. It could be using that optically clear 255 with solvent-based adhesive, 218 blackout for the two films that are paired together. It could be the rigid vinyl or some other sort of blackout styrene type material, and the 116 mounting film. That one's my favorite because of the high-tack removable and air gress. Or it is the layered ink on static cling or GF 219 or even 255. So on these, you're not getting image bleed. You're getting the best image clarity by far. And this is the professional job. Okay. These three best paths, again, getting there depends on what your shop can do. But all three really deliver that same high quality result. All right, so good, better, best. We can apply this framework with any of the material paths we've covered, right? The right answer is it's informed by your equipment, how you're going to install, what your customer wants, what they need, and sometimes it's just your preference. There are a lot of good, and I'll even say correct options here. And again, it's going on glass, so there's a lot of forgiveness built into that surface. The point, though, is to thoughtfully evaluate the objective, look honestly at your options, and make good choices intentionally. That ultimately is what leads to solid, repeatable work. I have a few resources we've put together for you to take today. I reached out to a couple leading print equipment manufacturers specifically about second surface, push-pull, or multi-layer white ink workflows. And I got some great responses. So we've got that in a document, and we've got some links that we'll share to those. These are, I'll say they're specific to their platforms. Everybody treats these just a little bit differently, but again, from a troubleshooting or from a framework standpoint, we're all solving the same problems. I've also got a window graphics decision guide. This is like the decision tree that we walked through today. It also recalls the key questions. So our 7 key questions. There are some additional Windows specific questions that I threw in there, and it goes through that equipment checkpoint map to make sure that you're getting the right process for your equipment, and throws in some material options at each of those. That's a good one to print, keep by your printer, use next time a job comes in, whatever. I point you towards the technical data sheets and the application guides that you'll find out on our website. Full specs, recommended applications are out there. And if you want samples of any of these materials before you spec a job, you want to play around with some of the posters I had behind me, reach out to your GF rep. Your distributor has access to these as well, or send us a note through the website, through the contact us, and we will get those to you. Next month, we're coming back and we're going to be going into vehicle and fleet graphics. Really the same framework, but obviously different surfaces, right? Very different conformability conversation. So we'll talk about the different materials. We'll talk about surface complexities, some good, better, best stuff. And we'll get some helpful information behind why those materials fail and how we can prevent it. You can register for that at generalformulations.com/training. All right, did we do it? Did we demystify at all? And I hope so. This is something, again, windows are everywhere. And because they're everywhere, window graphics get treated like a commodity. But as we work through today, there's more going on than just commodity activity, right? Which side, which direction, what layers? What does a different image on each side of the glass actually require from your equipment and your materials? And they're not complicated questions once you know how to ask them. And fortunately, now you do, right? 4 things that I want you to take from today. 1, know your objective. Always establish which side of the glass, which direction the graphic faces before you touch a file or quote a job. That prevents those preventable failures we talked about. Number 2 is know your environment. It's the project management side that looks at the whole application ecosystem, the surface, the climate, the installer, all of that. 3, know your equipment, because it really shapes your options. Knowing everything that your equipment is capable of really means, what are you capable of? How can you continue to grow your business beyond just window graphics, right? Know your shop before you quote the job. And if the capability isn't there, it doesn't matter. Again, outsource with confidence. I've said it before, your value is in the experience that you provide for your customers and that service you provide, and becoming that trusted advisor, not just the guy or gal or individual who pushes print on the machine. Good questions lead to those good project briefs, right? And good briefs lead to good outcome regardless of who's running the press. And number 4, the layers matter. Know the materials and know the layers. Glass, adhesive, image, material, and how the sequence changes for second surface work. And every layer in that stack is the decision. Just know what you're doing, and know why. And as always, ask good questions.